We have just finished our warm-up for the day, putting words into the correct order when the letters were all mixed up, and then putting them into their past simple tense. So past simple is something we have been learning for a while, so this was mostly review. So today we're going to focus on the pronunciation of past simple words and verbs. So pronunciation is the correct way to say things, okay? So before we begin, let's review the rules for past simple tense for regular and irregular verbs. All right, so the first most common rule is adding ed or ed at the end of a verb to put it into past simple. So can someone give me an example of a verb that you add ed to put into past simple? Watch. Good. So watch turns into watched. So not watched, but watched. All right. The next rule is to add d for verbs that end in an e. So for verbs ending in an e, you add a d to put it into past simple. What's an example? Dance. Good. So it goes to danced. Once again, not danced, danced. One syllable. Okay, the third rule for verbs that end in ied, for verbs that end in y, you change it into ied for past simple. Okay, so verbs that end in y turned into past simple tense, turn it into ied. So what is an example of this? Study. Good. Turns into studied. Not studied, studied. Okay, so you try and make it as fluid as possible. And the final rule is you add a double consonant and add an ed for verbs, okay? For verbs to turn into past simple. So what's a consonant? Yeah, anything that's not a vowel. Our vowels are A, E, I, O, U. So anything that is not A, E, I, O, U is a consonant. And you turn that into an ed with the double consonant, so two of the consonants. So let's do an example of this one. So the verb plan, it turns into planned, not planned, but planned. So it's P-L-A-N-N-E-D. So you see we add the two consonants and then the ed. So I know this is mostly review for you. This is something we've been practicing, but I know that we do need to work on pronunciation. So these are the general rules for turning verbs into past tense, and they're simple past tense. And there are some irregular verbs that you unfortunately just need to memorize, but we will practice with them and eventually you will know them without a problem. Okay? So first what we're going to do is I am going to give you this list of 20 verbs in present simple that you will put into past simple. Okay? It shouldn't take you very long. They're verbs that you use very often when you're speaking. So put these 20 verbs into past simple. And then when you are finished, each verb has a pair in past simple that it rhymes with. What does it mean to rhyme? Yeah, like cat, hat, sat. Good. So each one has one that it rhymes with. So for example, the first word we have in the list is break. This is an irregular verb in past simple. What is the past simple tense of break? Broke. Good. Who sees a word that it might rhyme with? Yeah, speak. Spoke. Good. So broke, spoke. Those are both two words in past simple that rhyme, and they're also both irregular verbs. So see, you already know lots of irregular verbs. So take a moment to put first into past simple, and then find the pair for each one. This is to practice with your pronunciation to make sure you're saying it correctly, okay? All right, good job. So we've put all of the verbs in past simple, and we have put them with their partner. Yes? Was that very difficult? No. Okay, good. I'm glad. So we've said them aloud and we've worked on our pronunciation. The most important thing to remember is when adding ed on these verbs, it doesn't add an extra syllable, right? It's not an extra sound. It's just one word, right? So now let's practice saying it out loud together with the class. We're going to play a memory game called Last Weekend I. So for this game, one person will start the game saying, last weekend I, and then you say a verb in past simple and an activity you do with that verb, okay? So for example, last weekend I slept in my bed. And then the next person will add on another verb with an activity, including the verb that we said before. So last weekend I slept in my bed and listened to the radio. And so on. So last weekend I slept in my bed, listened to the radio, and visited my grandmother. Okay? So be sure to add an activity with the verb. Don't just say last weekend I slept. Okay? So we're going to use the 20 verbs that we used in our last activity to create 20 verbs with their activities. Okay? And while we are doing this, I want you to take out a piece of paper and write down each sentence, okay? So that way you have, in the end, the 20 verbs with activities written down. Because what you are going to do for your home task is record yourself saying this long sentence. It's not different sentences, right? It's one long sentence. You're going to record yourself so you can listen to your pronunciation, focusing on the tips we discussed today, okay? So we will start here at the front, and then I'll give you a minute to write down their sentence and to add on. Okay, so let's get started.